Hey, family. This is Che Willis coming back with another episode of Wealth is a Journey podcast. Guys, this is episode 106. 106 weeks of consistency, 106 weeks of getting it done. Guys, we are out here moving. We are outside. Um, to everybody who has watched, subscribed, um, gave an encouraging word, anything of that nature, I just want to let you know that I appreciate you. Thank you so much, man. To look back, we've been doing this for 2 years now, and to look back over the journey and the progression, things getting better, content getting better, lighting, microphones, cameras, all the things just getting better, trying to increase the experience. I just want to say thank you again for just taking this ride with me and sticking with me when things were rough. Uh, if you are new to this podcast, thank you so much for joining us. On this podcast, we talk about faith, family, and finances, among other things. And if you are a return listener, watcher, or subscriber, thank you so much for joining us again. Hopefully, we are adding value to your lives on the way to the M's. Because as always, we are on the way to the M's. So, guys, one thing I love about doing this podcast is it allows me to get into my introspective bag, into being vulnerable, and telling you guys things about myself, shortcomings, just different things that I need to work on and improve to be better. And it's not just wealth being a journey. Life itself is a journey. And if you're paying attention, and hopefully you're paying attention to the different things that you can improve and you act on those things. And today we're going to talk about some things that happened to me specifically and how I'm working to improve those things. So, if you are new and have never heard this story before, I'm just going to give you a brief snapshot of my journey and how I got to where I am today. Being on this wealth building journey and things of that nature. When I was younger, well, first of all, I grew up in Lower Marion School District, one of the wealthiest school districts in America. Um, I didn't grow up in that area as far as like being wealthy and things of that nature. I'm not saying I grew up dirt poor, had holes in my sneakers or anything like that, because that was not the case. But we did have some challenges where I grew up, right? In my family, just like everybody else. But I remember always before I laid down or before I went to sleep, I would always pray. God, I want to be wealthy. God, I want to be healthy. I want to just not struggle. And I want to be able to just do things when I would like to do them. And anybody who prays, you may not think that God is listening to you, but I'm here to tell you that he listens to you and he responds to your prayers. However, you have to be paying attention to the different things that come up where he is answering your prayer, but you may not think that that's the thing, that that's what's happening. So, as far back as I can remember, when I started working, 14 years old, I remember having something in my heart that I wanted to retire by the time I was 45. That's it's super weird for me to be that young and think that, right? But as I'm growing older, I'm learning lessons from my grandparents who I live with pretty much full time. And they're teaching me hard work. They're teaching me, how to save money because credit cards weren't really a thing back then. And I don't know anybody who had a credit card back then. But what I learned hard work, right? And in that, it was me building on just different things. Like I knew in order to get the things that I wanted, that I had to work for them. So I had to work hard and I had to save because my parents were not in a position at that point in time to give me the extras that I may have wanted. So I knew I had to work for those things, right? So as I'm, going along in life, God is providing me with just different relationships and different opportunities to achieve my goal. Now, was I thinking about that back then? No. But now that I'm looking back on my life, I'm seeing how he set me up. The one thing that's sticking out of my mind is I went to college. I went to Cheney University, see you stand up. And when I went to college, I went to school for computer science. The reason I went to school for computer sciences was because one of my friends in high school, he was going to school for computer sciences. I had no idea what all that entailed, but I met somebody at freshman orientation who was like, "Yo, well, do you like selling things?" And yeah, I like business and I like selling things. He was like, "Well, why don't you be a marketing major?" And I'm like, "You know what? That makes sense." But it was a random conversation that I had with this gentleman. I did not know who he was. But anyway, I had the conversation and then I ended up changing my major to marketing. Then I had this idea in my head. I'm going to get an internship somewhere when I was a junior. Got the internship, started working for the company right out of school because the internship went well. Didn't know anything about investing, didn't know anything about 401ks. But now that I'm thinking about it, my dad, he used to come pick me up. We didn't live together. He came and picked me up one day when I was 8 or 9 years old. We're driving down the road and he's like, "Hey, I'll be right back. I'm gonna pull over to this house over here." I'm like, "All right, cool." So he comes back. He has a lot of money in his hand, and I'm like, "Yo, where did you get this money from?" I thought he robbed the people in the house. So he's like, "Yo, these people pay me to live here." So now that I'm thinking back on these things, these little things that happened. Remember, I was praying when I was a little kid because we didn't have much. That he's setting me up for the things that I'm praying for as a kid. So from that time on, I always wanted real estate. And as I got that idea in my head that I was going to be retiring by 45, that that was going to be the way for me to be able to retire by buying rental property, having people pay me to live in the properties and things of that nature. So my wife and I, when I get married, I'm kind of going through this story so I can get to my point. My wife and I, we get married, and then right after that, we buy our first property. Now, after that, what we were trying to do was rinse and repeat, meaning that we were going to buy a property and then the next year buy another property with other people's money, getting a loan from the bank. But then the 2008 crash happens. So it stops people from borrowing money. So I'm like, okay, I can either stop my dream or I can continue to go with God's help. So 2008 happened. Then it takes about 3 years to be able to save up about 40 grand. So I'm saving, we're saving money up, right? And we're putting money to the side because at that point in time, we couldn't, we couldn't use the bank's money because they were not lending money anymore. So save up about $40,000. And then what happens is my realtor was like, "Hey, I think they're going to start lending money again." I'm like, "All right, cool." So we go look at houses. I get a mortgage on the property, and then I buy the property with other people's money using the bank's money. So then go through my wife and I we go through Financial Peace University, which is a Dave Ramsey course, which teaches people to reduce their debt so they have more money to invest, things of that nature. So what that process of the 2008 crash happening, it taught me that I could save up money to buy real estate with cash. Although that wasn't the norm. Like people weren't doing that, right? But it showed me that with God's help again, helping me get to my goal of retiring at a certain age, that this is possible for me. He exposed me to that being possible through something that was supposed to be a bad thing. So go through Financial Peace University. I paid a house off because I had the money. And then I'm like, okay, well, if I save the money the first time, then I can do this again and then use the money from the rents that come in. And so I rinsed and repeated. And I did that again and again and again, right? So through going through this course, we then again, fast forwarding the story, we then pay our house off, which is a part of the debt reduction piece, right? Which again, this is one domino that needs to fall in order for the retirement piece to be able to happen, because your mortgage is one of your largest expenses. So if you have your largest expense gone, what can you do? You can save and invest at a rapid pace. So things are going really well for us financially. After we pay the house off, in leading up to this point, things are going well. My wife and I, we get on the same page with our finances. We combine our finances. We're able to eliminate debt at a rapid pace. But the thing is that as things are going well, we have this idea sometimes that things are going so well that it's it's sometimes we take God out of the picture. Because I mentioned the first time that I prayed to God about these things happening. He provided a way for us to build wealth, but all the while I'm checking in with him to make sure that we're doing the right things. So if a business opportunity comes up, I'm praying about it. I get a check in my spirit that, hey, this may not be the right thing, then I don't do it. But then also I get a check in my spirit that, yes, this is the right thing to do. And the way to know if this is the right thing for you to do is if there is a peace in your spirit. So if you have a decision to make, whether it's large or small, and you don't have a peace in your spirit, there's an anxiousness, there's a I have to do this right now, then maybe that might not be the right thing to do. And the best way to know that is if you have a pattern of doing these things and then you have bad fruit as a result of the thing happening. Like something bad happens as a result of you feeling anxious that you have to do this thing and you have to do it now. You end up doing it, and then bad things happen as a result of it. So hopefully that makes sense.
What's going on, family? This is Che Willis from Wealth is a Journey. Did you know that we just started a wealth building community? In this community, we meet once a month on Zoom. We discuss financial areas of opportunity. We discuss wins and strategies to get you to the M's. In anybody's wealth building journey, if you're just starting out, it can be super lonely and difficult. In this community, we're also going to hold you accountable to where you say you want to be. So if you need the accountability, if you need the family atmosphere, if you need help getting to your desired financial result, come join the community. My website is www.wealthisajourney.com. Join the community today to get to your financial result. Thank you.
So for us, things are going really well. And just recently, I prayed about this month. Like, how are things going to go this month? And I get a check in my spirit that, hey, don't do any investing this month at all. Don't do any investing this month. That's what I hear in my spirit. And I have a peace about it. So I know from the past that this is God telling me, don't do this. But the thing about it is that we know that pride comes before the fall. So if there's anybody who reads the Bible, will know that pride comes before the fall. Uh, and it's not pride outwardly, like you're saying like, oh, look at me, I'm this or I'm that. But it was more so my actions that showed me that I was being prideful, and I'll tell you how. Because when God blesses you with certain things, a lot of times we feel like we're unstoppable in our minds. Like we're unstoppable. Uh things can't go wrong for me. So even though I prayed, God told me, don't do this, I end up doing it anyway, and I'm suffering loss as a result of it. Remember, I talked about the fruit. Remember the fruit of what you're doing or the decision that you made. So the fruit of me doing what I heard not to do, I did it anyway, and I suffered thousands of dollars in loss because of it. So at this point in time, I'm feeling awful. One, I'm feeling awful because I lost money, which I hate doing. Number two, I'm feeling physically bad because I know I went against what God told me to do, and it was awful. Like I like it felt like there was a cloud over me. If that makes any sense at all. Like I just physically felt bad. But the one thing that with me building my relationship with God is that I read the Bible and I love the stories in the Bible. And if we're paying attention, those are warnings for us. Like think about Saul. Saul went from being a nobody to then being a king through God's grace. He didn't even ask for it. This is what happened to him, right? But the kingdom got ripped from Saul when he didn't own up to what he did wrong. And he basically went against what the prophet told him to do, and then he suffered loss as a result of it. But the reason he suffered loss is because he was prideful. He blamed the people for the things that he did instead of taking accountability for the things that he did and he allowed to happen. So it just so happened that I'm reading this as I'm going through this. And I believe that that was God warning me for the things I was about to encounter. Things are going well for years for me and my family. And in my head, based on my actions, I'm feeling like God's with me. If I'm making the wrong mistake or if I'm making the wrong decision, he's going to correct it for me, no problem. But I knew I was doing the wrong thing when I went against what I heard, and then also the feeling that I had, and then me suffering loss. So it let me know that I was being prideful. And what I want to get across today is that if you're suffering loss, well, first of all, if you're praying for things, God is definitely giving you answers to your prayers. But if you're not paying attention to the answers and you think that the thing is just going to fall from the sky, whatever you're believing for is just going to fall from the sky, it takes you doing something and you recognizing, different opportunities and maybe warnings that may be coming to you for you to accomplish your goal. And up to this point, God's been speaking to me on the inside, but when I follow what I hear, things go well. So when I went against what I heard, things were suffering for me, thousands of loss. But when I was reading what I was reading in Samuel regarding Saul, regarding David, that was my opportunity to repent, to say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done this. I'm going to turn around. I'm not going to do the things that I know I'm not supposed to do. And as soon as I did that, I felt like the cloud left me. And so it made me realize that I was being prideful. I thought because God was with me and then I was winning all this time, that I would continue to win even though I went against what he said. And that's just not the case. So for those of us who are praying for things, those of us who are believing God for things, I would encourage you to look for the signs. if you are winning in life, if things are going well for you in life, or if things are not going well for you, and you're praying for things, look for the answers that God is giving you, whether it's through a person, whether it's through a circumstance or a connection, and look for that. And if you're suffering loss, look for where you went wrong and where you can turn that around. And if you're praying and not reading the Bible, there's several different stories, there's several different people in the Bible who can help you not do the things that you know in your heart that you shouldn't be doing, because the examples are them suffering loss as a result of them doing the thing that they know that they should not be doing. So this episode is not necessarily a church type thing, but you may look at people and you may say to yourself, "Oh, they have it all together. They're winning. Good things are happening for them," which they may be, but it's not them that's doing it. They're outside forces and help that's coming to their aid to help them accomplish whatever the goal is that they're trying to accomplish. In my situation, God has blessed us tremendously, right? But as you go along in life and you continue to win, through your actions, you might not say this outwardly, but through your actions, you may feel like at times that you did it on your own, when that's definitely not the case. Nobody successful has gotten anywhere alone. Through God's grace, through connections, through affiliations, different things of that nature. But nobody gets to where they are alone. It just doesn't happen that way. So if this is more so a warning to those who are on the come up, to just watch out and pay attention. If you get a if you pray and you get a bad feeling and you go against the feeling and then you start suffering loss, go back to what you prayed for and remember when that bad feeling started, and then try to turn that around. Not try, turn it around. Because where Saul went wrong is he didn't recognize that he was doing something bad, and he just dug in and was like, no, it was the people. It wasn't me, it was them. And that's when things went wrong for him. If you remember the story about David, he did a bad thing. He slept with my man's wife, which was crazy. Then he got my man killed, but then he repented for doing it instead of digging in and say, you know what, I did it. So what? He recognized what he did wrong, and although he did suffer loss after he repented. His life was still spared, and he did not lose his kingship, if that makes sense. So what that told me is that, hey, you're suffering loss at this point, but you can turn things around if you repent. And that's exactly what I did. And as soon as I did, I instantly felt better. I felt like the cloud was not over my head anymore, and I instantly felt better. So I want, hopefully this conversation makes sense to the listeners, because again, we did not get here alone. We definitely had help. I know my help. I know where my help comes from. So hopefully this again makes sense. And it may have seemed like I was rambling on, but I felt like this was very important, because a lot of people may uh, feel like God's not listening to them, but I'm here to tell you that He is. But we have to look for the answer. The answer may not come audibly in your head, but it may come through you having a conversation with somebody and them giving you direction, and that direction, God sending them to be the answer to your prayer. So, and then when you start winning, to look for areas of opportunity for you to be better and not be prideful, because I'm telling you, it will happen. The opportunity for you to be prideful will happen. But when you recognize it, turn away from it. I'm telling you, man, because you will suffer loss. It happened to me. And again, on this podcast, we're talking about all the good and the bad. And we need to know everything that could potentially happen to us on our way to where we're trying to go. So hopefully this helps somebody, man. This was a very good lesson for me to remind me that it's all a journey, and even if you're winning, just to watch out for areas for you to be prideful, because the things that lead after pride are not good. So again, hopefully this has helped somebody. Wealth is a journey. We will see you next week. Peace.